hear you. I can see you also. I can see
Okay, good.
Praveen. I can see Ramesh's screen also.
Good. Good evening, Sridhar.
Ramesh's screen also.
Ramesh, I think we can start.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, namaste, and welcome to this, the seventh edition in this series of Guru Manthan 2020. And and very briefly about We Lead. We Lead is an initiative of the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement, and We Lead's mission is to develop human and social capital for nation building. And this it aims to do by enhancing the potential of individuals and institutions across the development sector. And by it aims to do this by engaging across four sectors: the government, NGOs, corporates, and community, with a special focus on the youngsters. Particularly during this COVID 2019 situation, we've had multiple web-based programs that we have conducted for a cross-section of people, and Guru Manthan 2020 is one such platform that is focused on teachers, where this platform is focused on sharing, discussing, debating, and learning about diverse practices and perspectives in education from across the world. It's a series of 50 lectures that will go on till July 2021. And over the last month, a little over a month, we've had people from across the who's who of from India's public sphere share their thoughts, starting with Dr. Gururaj Karjagi, then with Professor M.K. Sridhar, then we've had the former election commissioner, Shri T.S. Krishnamurthy, then we had Mr. Anurag Baer, then Dr. Akanksha Bapna. And on Teachers' Day, we had Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan share his thoughts on teacher, the heart of the matter. And today it's a pleasure to have Mr. N.E. Sridhar, the Associate Vice President and Head Corporate Sustainability Titan. Before I hand over for introduction to Praveen, I would like to quickly say that the format, as always, would be that the guest speaker would speak for about 25 to 30 minutes. This will be followed by a moderated Q&A, where we will take questions also from the chat box that's open. And lastly, the speaker would also close the session with a short closing. Praveen, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah, Dr. Kumar would.
Yeah. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Let me just introduce you to the participants. It's my pleasure and privilege. You are very much audible, Sridhar.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just give an opportunity to introduce you to the participants. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Shri Sridhar, who has been kind of one of the long-standing partner of SVOIM and supporter of SVOIM. So he is currently the Associate Vice President and Head of Corporate Sustainability at Titan Company Limited. And the special thing about Sridhar is, one is definitely his passion towards education. Our association with Titan is now more than 7-year old. We are into the eighth year partnership, and his special interest towards education and looking at beyond just giving some support in terms of financial assistance to educate the child. He looks at how this partnership really results in the actual intent of the program. So that is something very unique about Sridhar, and he's keen on how this partnership can really result in the change in the development sector. So those are the special things. Probably we will hear more about his thoughts on these lines, particularly in the sector of education. So Sridhar, it's over to you. So thank you for being part of us, and we would like to listen more from you on your thoughts on how CSR and education go together.
Thank you for the introduction. Just in case the connectivity goes away, I will immediately come on to a phone call either to Dr. Kumar or Praveen so that the continuity is maintained. Okay, because the connectivity is creating havoc for the last few days. Rains are there, and yesterday I had a presentation to some of our board. It really created havoc, but somehow I managed to finish. So I hope it doesn't happen. Therefore, to be safe, I have logged on to my mobile, and hopefully it should take us through. I didn't take my laptop. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me on this topic. The topic is very interesting, but it's not new. Actually, some of the statistics and some of the points what I want to introduce is not new to anyone. I think am I audible, Dr. Kumar?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, great. I think all statistics are there, and there's nothing new. The state of education and literacy, we really see in rural India, the literacy is about 56.8%, and among males, it's about 72.5%. The literacy in urban India, it's about 80%. But in urban India, I think the differentiators is almost 75 between females and 84% are literate among males. So it's a large difference. And also the rates, if you see, varies across states. This data is about a year plus old. So it's actually a no-brainer that corporates or companies or even individuals or philanthropists or trusts or foundations who want to do CSR, I think the first choice for them always comes as education and skilling. Nowadays, skilling is getting added on. In fact, if we have to see the last 4 years of analysis of the spends by corporates in CSR after the Companies Act came into picture, I think the top spend has been always education and skilling. Almost 33% by value terms, it is spent on education and skilling. Skilling has been added on as a continuum of education in the recent past. So the point is not whether corporates are spending on education, it's about on what are they spending on. In fact, if you really look at the spends on education, it is not new. Companies Act probably only reinforced it. The corporate involvement in spending on education, the scholarship schemes in this country is as old as it can be. Scholarships for students in the schools or in high schools or further education, or opting schools, for example, is not new. Supporting infrastructure has been a focus area. Some of these things have been already in existence ever since we know philanthropy existed. However, what has been the critical change after the Companies Act came into picture has been the manner in which this philanthropy has changed into a clear set of what they look at, that is quality of output and also the quality of education, what is going in as to these children. I think the biggest challenge therefore today, what we see is access to quality education and quality of outcomes. I'm not saying output here because output we can count in numbers, but outcomes are perhaps what makes a big difference in this education scenario in the country. I think there are enough and more studies which show the quality of students in this country, wherever they study. I mean, many of them, we keep quoting government schools and things like that, but I don't really agree that the government school is as bad as what people are making out to be. But having said this, I think the quality of students from the school system and to even employability, I think it keeps going down and down and down. You've seen how even grade 6 or grade 7 students sometimes are even unable to do basic maths of comprehend what grade 3 students do. These are realities. In some states, it's much more even worse off. So that's one part. The second part, if I look at the other extreme end, I think, and I've been part of recruiting engineers in my own company for the first 20 years of my career, I think 60 to 65% in the recent past, if you really see, 65% of the engineers who are coming out are unemployable. So honestly, therefore, what is the issue? What happens, and therefore, where should we invest ourselves in? And I think when we start talking about investing and resources, I think money is just one resource. And I'll come to it in a minute from now. What, therefore, is the definition of resource and how corporates and well-meaning companies need to look at. That is, it's also a well-known fact that, when you look at the 4 stages of education for a child,
Muted. Sridhar, I think your audio is muted.
I'm getting muted from the host side. I don't know how,
Yeah,
because I'm unmuting manually myself.
yeah, there was a.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you are audible. So please go ahead.
It's getting unmuted there. So anyway, so I think whether it's the ICDS system where actually the formative years of the kid happens in terms of the fundamentals of education in the Anganwadi system, or the primary and secondary education, or higher education, or even employability. I think this is the first thing corporates have to realize is this thread, because more often than not, from the earlier approach to this current approach, they look the difference between injecting what they want to do in various parts versus looking at it as a continuum. One needs to see this through the entire value chain in order to see whether our augmented support is well implemented. And just to give an example, my own company's example, we have started one of the largest programs we are running is educating the girl child. What started off as an augmented support, or even let's say a remedial support to the girl child, today we're working with partners, not just looking at education support, but also trying to look at the entire life cycle. When I use the word life cycle, I'm not from the development world. So for me, life cycle is much more easier to understand and easy to explain. That means what I said earlier, right from the formative years, how do we understand the kid in the Anganwadi system tries to pick up and learn something? And then not just education, how do we start working on the health condition? How do we start looking at nutrition? And therefore, how do we move on from there to the primary education, the secondary education, and the higher education, and then employability? So 4 to 5 years back, we started this program, not just looking at education as an independent piece, but look at the life cycle and what it means. We all know education is the most basic form of empowerment. But I think when we talk about empowerment, I think economic empowerment sits perhaps immediately on top of that. Unless and otherwise we economically empower people, whether it's the girl child or anyone else, I think we'll probably be falling short of it. So we need to see this as a continuum. And therefore, we started this program in terms of looking at the continuous life cycle education from the Anganwadi and getting in the kids to learn, teach the Anganwadi workers to teach them something which will probably lay the foundation and then move on to the schooling system, the higher education, and thereafter looking at what could be gainful employment. So this is what we started looking at through and through. Even if I look at our own engagement with the SVYM, I think what we started off with the high school education, we started pushing them every year and then saying, what next? How are we going to move them on to the next level of skilling or next level of education? What do you want to do next? I think over the last 4 5 years, we have been constantly engaging, talking, and doing this. But that's one part of it. The second part is about how do we get quality. Quality does not come because we keep on asking the child to learn more and more. The quality also comes by enhancing the quality of the teachers. I think building capacity and capability is the next critical important aspect. So what we did in this example with SVYM, we started working to help develop quality teachers with the DED program. So I think when we need to see value, and when we want to see value, we need to work together to see value. And therefore, what therefore comes in and what therefore corporates start expecting in the space of education, they start looking at what is the definition of investment, expectation of results, returns. How do we define returns? Returns can be defined in many ways, measurable outputs from a very basic level, output level, how many students are enrolling, so many students are pass out, attendance. I think that was the first year when we started. But after that, how do we look at the quality of learning and get on to higher education, which they will. And therefore, if you really see, there are many corporates are now starting to move on to this bandwagon of supporting education. But where? I think it's very important to know where to support and what to support. And let me take a few examples to talk about what companies want to see in the areas what they want to support. Now, I want to make a very important distinction here. We always need to understand companies coming with a certain perspective. They always believe that we have money, they want to share money. but that's the thing of the past. Now, companies really want to know where to put in the money in the education system. NGOs and partners and institutions have their version of what they want the money for. There are quite a few. Let me start off with one of the most important things, and perhaps one of the biggest things which get talked about whenever we talk about education and things like that, and we start getting into government schools and maybe even, let's say, schools which are probably less privileged or the less privileged, school infrastructure, school building, classroom furniture starts getting discussed and discussed. We don't have enough classrooms, things like that. Okay, fine. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it, they say we don't have enough teachers, and therefore can we provide more teachers? And we are working in Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, we're working in Sikkim, we're working in in Karnataka. So provision of teachers, that's the second thing which keeps coming up. Can we provide more teachers? It starts also coming to an extent where some people, there was a scheme in some parts of the states of the country saying that can we adopt schools for holistic development. Similarly, we were looking at aspects of when 5 years back when the government kicked up the program on sanitation, infrastructure, wash intervention, and so forth. So that started taking the brains of corporates who suddenly started putting their money into that. Then came in early childhood education. What does it mean? Where do we start? So we started looking at it from this perspective of, that's what I was just talking about 3-4 years back when we started this girl child program, looking at early childhood education at the Anganwadi stage and start working with the government. Then came in sponsorship and scholarships, which I think is not new to this country. But the key point is, what are we giving the scholarship for? I think today there are many, many definitions of scholarship. What are we giving scholarship for? Are we giving scholarship for studying or augmenting support for him in terms of his all other expenses? Where are we giving the scholarship for? Is the scholarship a grant, or is the scholarship meant to be a revolving manner in which it keeps moving on and on to the next generation? Are we today, I think in the last at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, STEM has caught on. STEM related interventions, science, technology, engineering, but it has caught on significantly. Now there are various organizations, individuals, corporates, NGOs who are working on. The other one which has caught on has been digital education, computer classes, English improvement. So people invest in saying, can we improve the quality of English, which is a huge, huge gap today with what we see. Reading and libraries, providing provision for libraries, reading technology, reading through tabs, whatever you want. Career counseling, school counseling. Where do you want the school to go beyond 3 years, 4 years from now? Teacher training and capacity building. I think this is some very important aspect where I think probably not many corporates are really venturing into it. I know there are quite a few foundations, quite a few trusts who are working on this, but corporates probably are not necessarily pushing the bar on this side, because this is something which is going to make a big difference in the quality of outcomes. Non-formal education. I think with the increasing advent of today's requirements in terms of livelihood, job-based skills, and many other aspects of even the NEP is going to talk about. I think non-formal education is big play because everyone can't be else. And therefore, how do we bring this component in our education system? Another aspect which people are now forgetting, and we did a very small work with even SVYM teachers, how do we use alternate ways of teaching? Using art form, culture, heritage. I think innovation will start coming in the minds of students and teachers when we start looking at alternate ways of teaching. Promoting sports and education. Now, this is something which many of them are doing good, and SVM is doing quite well on this. But perhaps it is in many schools in the schooling system, it is relegated to a PT period. Awareness and advocacy. I think a big role the corporates have to play is actually creating advocacy, actually trying to push the policy makers of the country along with the education institutions to create something different. I'm not too sure when the NEP was created how many corporates were involved. I don't know. Therefore, I stand corrected if they were involved. But I think when we get involved there, then we know where it goes. Technology education, strengthening school management today, SMCs. I think it's as old as when I started in schools. PTA it was called. But it was probably there to look at child and education. But how are we engaging them in the larger development of the school? Now, when I keep talking, about, and of course, the NGOs and partners are all involved in this education system. How do we build their capacities? Now, these 7, 8, 10 things what I just said are choices and avenues a good corporate has to look into it before the money is being put. I think money is one part, but choices are unlimited. Where do we put? What do we put? In fact, even in this also, just to give one example, the one of the new aspect which is coming up increasingly is, and thanks to even NEP is trying to push in through, is the quality of bedding in vocational training, bringing in life skills, community, making, the whole school in terms of, as a play school, and bringing in life skills as part of the curriculum. Now, this is increasingly becoming popular in the schools. So what I was just trying to talk about in the last couple of minutes is the avenues. And these avenues are not completely exhaustive, but I think it's very important, is critical from all aspects of what a corporate needs to think. And then there will be value addition. Now, I think if you really look at where significant investments are required, I think obviously we should also not forget the fact that many people in the initial years of CSR were getting on to discussions about, I will give money for scholarships, or I will give you for teacher training, I will want to give for this and that. But we should also not forget the fact that there are buildings non-existing, there are no toilets. So we can keep saying that, but we don't want to put into buildings at all if you don't have a good infrastructure. We started off CSR in Uttarakhand in some of the schools where they're biting cold and they don't have place to sit. When they sit on the floor, when it is cold season, they don't come to classes. So we said, there's no point in saying that, no, I will give you money for running your classes, English teaching and this teaching. They just said, give us some mats to sit. Now, thinking through on that made a big difference in the child coming back to the school. I think, it's very important that we understand the need in the education system rather than go with a preset mind. Of course, priorities will keep getting updated, keep changing, and in line with many changes what's happening either in the education policies or even from location to location, place to place, or whatever, as we see. The biggest ones which was pushed along 3-4 years back was the whole aspect of creating sanitation and wash system in the schools. Rightly so. But these are all programs. Programs don't define. They are not the only ones which define. And therefore, when you look at, and I'm personally very focused on trying to see which are these ones. We have 4 or 5 we're trying to push, we're trying to experiment, we're trying to push the NGOs and partners to take, obviously support them. It's no point in giving a yarn. If I say that, I remember when we pushed in SVYM to bring in IFA to do teacher training through the theatre form, I think we pushed them. I said, no, IFA is one of our other grantees. We said, go into Sarguru, get those teachers, go into Oswali, get those teachers, and then do this program. We did that. We funded that. It's no point in saying you go ahead and then do it, because we got to participate to see you and then make it happen. That's the whole point. So I think there are many areas where, but the point is very important. We should realize when we participate as corporates, I think we should go 1 step, 2 steps, and the partner should come 2 steps. It's very important unless we align, because one of the very critical learnings and changes is corporate CSR is now not looking at any more philanthropy. It is looking at how do we add value as a corporate entity, and therefore how we create solutions for the system. And if we have to do that, I think it has to be a win-win for both. It can't be a win and no win for the other. And therefore, I want to talk about a couple of things. In fact, the new education policy will pose a huge challenge, but all organizations who are in space in the education system have reasonable time to jump into it. Huge opportunity to start creating difference. Join hands early with corporates in this redefining this engagement. Redefining the engagement of corporates and not merely look at what it was going on so far. We have to start early. I think one of the studies which I picked up recently talked about, what corporates start looking at, to strengthen. One is obviously many corporates, after they leave out in terms of supporting or funding or whatever, they don't follow through. Robust monitoring, valuation, impact assessment, and all those, they're all nice words from the point of view of CSR and impact, but corporates will start pushing this. If you look at partnerships and collaborations, I think the single most success, and if you ask me, has Titan been fully successful? My answer is not necessarily so. But we are moving in the direction of creating success. Definition of success can come in various ways. I was talking about the manner in which we want to measure ourselves. Could be one way of defining success. A smile on the kid when he passes class 10 and goes out is another way of looking at success. So I think it's not necessarily a number we'll start pushing in. Okay. So the whole aspect of partnerships, collaborations, technological advancements, leveraging all those, I think these are 4 or 5 areas which a recent survey actually pulled up and then said probably corporates and partners should start moving on and looking into it. So I want to summarize a few things, both from a corporate perspective and from an NGO or a partner or any institution perspective. This I would call as learnings. One, the most important thing, both partners and corporates should believe that we should not replicate what the institution does. When I say institution, we should not end up replicating what the government is doing. We should not duplicate it. Rather, we should work together to strengthen the system. This is the biggest learning I have learned in all my CSR programs, and certainly in programs like education. So there is a well-established system. Now, how do we strengthen, move on, and bring in quality into that? Second, corporate should not, I'm talking from a corporate perspective, corporate should not believe that we have expertise in running the education system. We are not. Our job is to make our own services. We should work with expertise. We should be having the means and wherewithal to seek out the right partners to work with the education system. Don't ban from the institution, the NGOs. When we co-create, we bring in value. If you don't co-create, we will adopt a product what's already being running. And that may not necessarily lead to what vision we want to have in quality. We must in good quality inputs and capability and capacity building. The biggest challenge NGOs today are facing, both from corporates and from their own selves, is we should restrict. I don't believe that should have quality. And therefore, I think this is time for all of us to think, saying that we should go back and then push the government, saying that what is this 5% overheads you're giving? It is in no way it can help anything. So this is the job of advocacy. This is the job of policy changes and modifications. Corporates should demand outcomes and just not outputs. When I say output, numbers, outcomes means we're having a meaningful discussion on what will this result in. Very critical. We have to stay. Challenges of corporate users, stay with the program, stay with education for a reasonable period of time. Don't be impatient for results. My biggest learning. If I am impatient for results, the second year of putting money, I say, what is, I used to ask SBY, therefore what happened this year tends to have pass results. Now I think passing results is now given. What is the quality of outcomes? That is what I think we are moving on, but don't be impatient for it. Bring value. Corporate. Have I did well? Has Titan done well? Maybe yes, may not be yes. Praveen was kind enough to say that we are doing a lot of things, but I think we bring in value to this education system through many ways. Many ways, bringing in employee engagement. How can our employees who have wealth of knowledge participate in enhancing the quality of either teacher capacity, student capacity, or whatnot? How can we bring in business-like thinking with partners, not business thinking, business-like thinking, and run the organization? How do we bring quality and excellence in education? We are organizations who are running a business products and creating excellence. What is the definition and how do we add value? This is what we bring to the table to the sphere of education. But it is the partners who are experts in education. We should leave it to them. Bring in innovation culture, actively participate in bringing in models. I don't want to name organizations, but for want of names, whether it is the model in which SVIM runs their own, the science model, or an Agastya, or even Atal Tinkering Lab, which is now there for many, many schools which have adopted experiential learning. I think many of these things are very critical in the system, and corporates have a lot role to play, not just CSR money. Work with well-meaning NGOs for policy and advocacy changes. I think these are some of the things which a corporate challenge and corporate would love to do. Okay, now what therefore we would expect from an NGO or a development sector enhancing the quality of education. What is important is stay to your core. If you are good in this, stay good to that. Nowadays, many NGOs, and I want to name those NGOs, because of CSR money and things like that, they believe that they can do everything in the value chain. So they start telling, I have this. Either they recruit some couple of people and then say, we will do this for you. But many a times it doesn't take off. It's very important for us to realize, for the NGOs to realize, stay true to your core, enhance your strength in the education system. Put in value over there. And that's what will make you better and better. Be open to co-create solutions. Don't just offer what we have. When we have a dream, we want to do this. I started my work with SVIM. I am not from education. I started from affirmative action. How do we look at supporting the tribals in education? From there, we have moved on and on and on. So we have a dream to achieve. Can the NGOs also create the dream along with us? Help us to realize this dream. Push corporates for all-round engagement. Don't take check for granted. Don't take check as it is. You just say that I don't want this check, but I want your involvement. Participate with us. Sit with us and understand the challenge. Give us value addition in these areas. You have to push. If you don't push, there are a lot. Companies like Titan have enough number of engineers, enough number of even postgraduates. Now that wealth of knowledge, how do we push it back into the education system? We are hardly giving back anything. When we say we give back, that is what we give back. It's not the money. Include exposing causes and celebrate success. This is very important because today, and I think partners, when they work with corporates, how do we look at celebrating success? How does a corporate involve corporate saying that, hey, look, we have got this. Why don't we celebrate success? Why don't we bring in as part of your communication system? Don't compromise on quality. Important. It's not good for a period of time. And with the new education policy bringing in a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, it's very important that we stay the course. It's very important that partners keep evolving, involve corporates ahead of time. Well-meaning corporates will stay the course. Of course, finally, don't take support for granted. You will be judged by what you claim, what you are. Sorry to end on this note, but this lesson comes in. We will be with you to make it happen, and we will not work on you. And that's the biggest mantra I learned from SVIM. Arbala taught me, don't work on us, work with us. Thank you so much for this time, and I'm open for any clarifications, any questions, anything, whatever you want. Challenge me, criticize me. I'm perfectly okay. I'll put things back to you.
On a lighter note, before we open up for questions, I just got on a call with Mr. Sridhar before the session. And he said, once I am done with my speaking, I would have answered most of your questions anyway. So you did do that, sir. And you actually articulated your learnings and the evolution of CSR itself very well. The shift towards a partnership rather than a hierarchical relationship between Titan and any other NGO. You have shared it very well. And one of the things which I personally liked was your point about strengthening an existing system and not necessarily replacing it. That was a key takeaway from that. Now, before we move into questions from the audience, I just wanted to.
Dr. Praveen, I just also want to tell you one thing. Normally, what happens in question answers, towards the end, we say for paucity of time, we'll take only 4 questions. But I want to promise the audience, even if there are 150 questions, please type it, send it across to my email ID. I will answer every one of them one to one. Okay. So 7 o'clock is the limit for the time on Zoom, but to share knowledge and thoughts, it is limitless. So every question I will answer. Please share my email ID to all.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you a lot. Yeah. So as we move to the questions, the first question which I wanted to look at is you did mention about the evolution of teams in which CSR is interested in investing. Like you mentioned, vocational skills is something new. STEM is something which is being spoken about. Life skills is something which is being spoken about. How does this evolution happen? Is it because there is a buzzword like STEM being spoken about and suddenly it gets introduced, or is it something which is based on data driven, scientifically driven?
Okay, so I am actually a statistician by education, a postgraduate statistics. I can reel out any number of statistics and data, but the real imperative, and I just told you about the type and the quality of output. So certain imperatives, and just take one example of life skills. Today, fundamentally, when we look at the quality of students coming out from wherever they're coming out, there are certain aspects of what they haven't been exposed at all. Okay. And therefore, that becomes a big limitation for them to even forget even the word compete, even to even make an entry into anywhere what they want. I recall the initial conversation with SVM where students were telling that no, they haven't gone beyond Satpur. Then they stepped into Mysore. Then they stepped into Bangalore. I remember the picnics used to come to Bangalore to tell them Bangalore, and therefore, I mean, when I go to West Bengal and Murshidabad and interact with the children there, okay, I do that. We have schools there also. They don't know even a single word in English. And I don't know Bengali. I know some 3-4 words, but then I don't. The point is, the conversation cannot come in if you don't able to talk in a language which you can break through. Still, I managed to break through some Hindi and this and that. That is one aspect of it, which has taken us the last decade, probably in an exponential manner. Okay. The second is with the advent of, now people talk about industry 4.0 and all, that's still somewhere else. But the fact of the matter is, even up to the higher education level, this is woefully lacking. When I used to go for my first campus in 1991, and when I went about 3 years back, I have seen the deterioration in the quality of students. Okay. Therefore, I think the words STEM, life skills, English, technology, they're all names and words. But fundamentally, to see what will actually bring them up to a certain level and enhance the quality, I think some of these are names given to that. STEM has become very popular because it's also nice to speak about, nice to pronounce about. Science and math. Science and math was always there. Technology is an evolution which has happened to all of us. Even me using Zoom today because that's also technology. People who stab because technology. COVID has pushed people to only do this, nothing else. Okay. What about engineering? Engineering has been in existence ever since I did my engineering in '84 and my predecessors. So the point is, nothing is new. It has been given a particular phase. People are focusing on it to therefore enhance the quality. Therefore, I wouldn't say this has been new. It's just evolved to keep in time with the current situation. That's it. And therefore, little focus. Make sure each one of them. There's only one point I would add. If you're innovative and creative, all this can be solved. All this can be solved. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Kumar to pose his question.
Yeah.
So, any question from the medical field, I may be challenged to answer, but let me make an attempt.
Yeah, definitely it's not towards, because we had already had the discussion about that in the very beginning. So as Praveen mentioned, probably you answered most of the questions that probably were there in my mind while discussing with you. The one thing specifically I wanted to just, because we lost you in between, you were mentioning about, corporates as a kind of who brings in a resource, in terms of money or manpower or some voluntary engagement and all these things. Generally, it is looked in that way. But you also mentioned that it is kind of engaging into a process, co-creation of process. So it is like when somebody corporate comes in, how does one know, like, you should ask what is actually needed. Generally, we get limited by what we want and what we think the other person can give with our limited experience. So what would be your suggestion in terms of that, whether it is bringing your business like thinking into the education? That I would want you to slightly elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, we have become wiser over the years. Okay. When I say wiser over the years, thanks to even people like R. Balu, who said, I'm sorry, I want you to participate, in the initial years. Okay. So he also used to give me examples saying that how certain corporate people participated in bringing down the overheads of the department, overheads of SUIM to whatever level. Now, the point is, I think every corporate brings to the table certain strengths. Financial resources is one. Unfortunately, the entry point, okay, for all partners in NGOs is finance. Okay, if let us say if 3 corporates come and sits with you in Sargur and says, now I'll start bringing in volunteering and all those things, I'm sure you will accept it. But then finally, like situations, let's say the current situations will also ask for resources like funds. Okay, so the entry point is funding resource, no doubt. Without finance, rest won't run. I mean, we can keep giving Jan, we'll do volunteers, that, etc. It's okay, it works to a limited extent. But what is important is, what are the 3-4 things? I think if you should enter into a dialogue. When you come and then say this is what we want to see, the dialogue is important. In fact, if you push the corporate that, look, what else can you bring to the table? And I'm sure your homework is equally important. If a company like Titan comes, I'm sure, you won't be blind. You obviously know about Titan. What is Titan? Not about branding. I remember we had one conversation sometime back with MBA, and how do we build SUIM as a brand? I'm just telling you what all conversations happen. So when you come back and then say, okay, this is known for quality, this is known for excellence, this is known for very good governance, this is known for pushing. How many times I've pushed you and Praveen and MAB and all, call us into a strategy meeting, we will challenge you, we will push you. Remember? So I think we should push, you should push us, we will say that yes, this is what we will bring. And that's very critical. And when we do this, we will do this with, both of us should do it with vengeance. Vengeance from the cause and not vengeance from saying, you asked me this.
Yeah.
It's possible to do. And that's where you will get multiplier effect. And that outcomes is just a matter of time. I think we should do that. And it's not so very difficult. Okay. Because, these things are the ones which really add value as you go. Yeah, I'm seeing some questions, but I'm sure somebody is making note of it and probably picking those questions.
So, Praveen, that's all.
Praveen, can I jump in with the question?
Yeah, sure.
Ramesh permits.
Oh, sorry.
Sure, go ahead, Dr. Balu.
Okay. Sridhar, you spoke about as part of the common co-creating solution to the problem of education. One of the things you mentioned was, how do we look at advocacy? And advocacy definitely is a strong point of some NGOs. But in an ecosystem where advocacy is not seen as something constructive by the establishment, where advocacy is seen as something not very friendly, I find most corporate CSRs don't want to put money into advocacy. They are also nervous because they are worried that the government will also see them in extension of the NGO as promoting advocacy and therefore have their eyes on them. So in such a vitiated environment, it's absolutely essential to talk about advocacy. How many corporates in your experience are actually willing to walk the talk and put money into advocacy?
Very early days, Balu. I'll give one example of what Titan did. Okay, if you ask me, advocacy, has it worked? Answer is no. Okay, but can it work? Very much, because the influence exerted by corporates is very high. Okay, I'll just give one example. Okay, and my ex-MD Bhaskar. When I think before year we had a meeting internally, our own CSR meeting, and Titan is technically a TIDCO company. We are a government company. We are not. We have chairman is from TIDCO, an IAS officer, we are working with 4 or 5 projects in Tamil Nadu. With every project department has an IS officer. Department of Employment Training, Mr. Vishnu Venugopal. So I interact with him and talk to him. ICDS, we have another IS officer. We go to education department, we have an IS officer. So at one point, Bhaskar said, why don't we get all the 6 or 7 IS officers and then say, if we have worked and created on some of these models, why don't we actually present those models and then say that to take these models forward? Now, advocacy can come in multiple ways. Okay. And I'll just give you very 2 small things which changed. Small things. Okay. With Kalike in Yadgir, okay. Small part of a program actually has got on to become part of the government, government's engagement in taking it to all schools. Now, the definition and the way of doing this can come in. So this is Kalike. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, okay, we are working with Care India, okay, in Katamanar COVID, and that place is one of the places where perhaps the most disadvantaged people are there. So certain elements of what we are doing for the adolescent education over there, government was very keen to replicate and take it forward. Now, I think when we create models which are successful, pilots which are successful, and slowly start bringing it into the system to be replicated and taken forward, it will take time. That's the influence what we bring in. Now, if I hadn't pushed in, sorry for taking names of the NGOs, if I hadn't pushed in those organizations, I will come and sit with you with a meeting with the IS officer. I haven't sent that with the ICDS chairman. I am interacting with almost on a weekly basis for the government ITS with Vishnu Venugopal, who's the director of employment and training. I am, so the programs what we are trying to do and making it as part of their own system and therefore making a policy or changes in the manner in which they're looking at. All the government ITs in Tamil Nadu over the last 3 years we have done on life skills training and employability training. Now, for them, it is part of every year's compulsory, which is going on. Now, I look at advocacy in different ways. We can keep changing NEP and all, but that's very far away. We can do work now and maybe work with many institutions like all of you are involved and do those changes. It is possible to do this if I take that step. I can just say, okay, fine, yeah, Care India, go and talk to ICDS chairman and continue with the program. We'll come to Katamanar once in a while and look at it. But I didn't do that. I went and sat. I said, let me try. It's okay. I did an MOU with the government of Tamil Nadu, which was unheard of when we did the Swachh Bharat. Unheard of. Okay. Swachh Bharat, I said, no, I want to have an MOU. How much of pushbacks I got, They said, this is, the governments were different. Okay. I don't want to say who. If this is what this government is saying, you have to do what I want to do. Then only I'll give you this clearance. We did that. And, after we did, there are some 20 other corporates saying that, how did you get this through? An MOU on Swachh Bharat with 2 opposite governments. I'm just giving, it is possible. We have to take it step by step. And we have to push. Balu, if you're pushing me, I need a Balu equivalent people to push the CSR heads. I need Goel to be pushed. I need, Biren to be pushed. I need, Girota to be pushed. When we start pushing this, slowly it will start coming. Okay. It's a long journey, but it's possible. Okay. It's possible. Take the example, you guys created this pre-vocational training in the school, right? Now it is called NEP, right? They're bringing it into the NEP. What did you guys do? Probably you were ahead of time. Okay. But the point is, how many of other schools even think like that? It's become, part of NEP. There's no choice to adopt it. There's no choice but to adopt it. So I think corporates, individuals in corporates, people who are thinking, that's why I keep telling you many times when I met you, in a way, thankfully, I have not come from the development sector. My background is not that. So I always keep thinking new, thinking different. I get pushed. I keep pushing people, hopefully raising the bar constantly. And that's what will move this needle slowly, but I'm sure it will move. Maybe 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, probably something will change. And we know this sector will take that time to say. Yeah. I hope I have answered a little bit of whatever I could answer.
There are
yeah. Okay.
questions in the chat box, which I'm kind of clubbing together.
Hello.
Am I audible, sir? Can you hear us? Yeah, there are about 3 or 4 questions from the chat box, which I'm clubbing together.
Sure.
We do have in the audience a few teachers from private schools, and you might know that all educational institutions in India are basically run by trusts and societies. So essentially, they are all expected to be non-profits. Now, do you see, or specifically in the case of Titan, or maybe in the case of other corporates as well, interested in working with well-meaning private schools, and in specific in an intervention like the ATL, where you can bring a lot of technical capabilities to the table? Would you be open for any partnerships or inputs or some technical capacity building of teachers in private schools?
Praveen, you know this very well. I pushed you on ATL. Remember my very first visit? I said, you guys go to this here for school. I pushed you guys. That was 2 years back. Okay. So don't push me on this question. I have become now ATL mentor. Okay. I have not still chosen the schools as yet in my own personal capacity. I've chosen schools where, not in Karnataka, deep part of Andhra, deep part of Tamil Nadu. I said that's where I should take the challenge. Now, but a Titan doesn't make the whole world of CSR. Okay, just one entity. But I think this is one area not explored well. Okay, I think ATL has moved on to some 5,000 plus schools across the country. Okay? I think we perhaps have not leveraged it well. Maybe it will be good. And I know personally Ramanan. I know Ramanan personally. Okay, Atal Innovation Mission. Maybe it will be good. And I'll take a cue from this. Maybe a few corporates, because I know just a handful of corporates are working in this. Very much handful. Okay, who probably started off early. Maybe it might be good to organize a session by him to some well-meaning corporates on how this can be leveraged. I don't have an answer saying that tomorrow can be done, but I have taken this initiative. And I was part of one of the schools in Bangalore, which some the startup days, some 0 days. Like in fact, I broke the news to that school saying that you have been awarded. So that therefore it's a more a hands-on thing to learn. And now I'm now officially a mentor, but not still choosing the schools because of whatever timings. But it is possible to probably get that, like a person like Ramanan, maybe we have a webcast and talk to some few schools and talk to some corporates, which we will sit together and organize maybe some 50 corporates saying that how corporates should participate in this. So this is something we can, enable and catalyze along with you all guys. So that's my brief answer to this.
Thank you, sir. Ramesh?
One caution, okay? The definition of support to education in this Companies Act is very, very open, okay? So corporates are cautious where they want to. I gave some 10 or 12, maybe 13 such areas, but whether that all those things are valid for an ashram school, for an SVYM, it is also valid for an IIM Indore. Okay, it is also valid for an IIM Indore. It is also valid for an IIT. So please understand the spectrum of what a corporate wants to do, to give a scholarship to somebody and then make him to go abroad to study, or to keep looking at this end of the spectrum. That's the challenge of this interpretation of this clause. Now, the influence on that is purely with the corporate, and perhaps how many partners are able to influence their thinking is a very different thing. So this is a caution on this whole Companies Act.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, you spoke about infrastructural deficits across the board, particularly in the education and things. But I think one of the things that corporates face is the serious issue of skill and talent deficits that of students who come out of the current education system. Particularly, the employability factor that is there. Last year, there was some discussion on if corporates should be getting into a more direct involvement for better social impact in building, in getting involved in building institutions both at the college and school level, which are on the basis of the PPP model. So, so that they can have a more direct impact on the this one. So, what are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts on that? Do you think that will?
This whole concept of PPP model and adoption of schools for holistic development, or even putting in money behind infrastructure, is very old. Okay, there are well-meaning trusts and foundations even in Bangalore who have done that quite well. Okay, obviously many of them did not really wait for a CSR act to come in place. They've been doing this for quite some time. They're putting in very large amount of money and resources. infrastructure calls in for large deep pockets. Absolutely no doubt. Okay. Now, the point we should keep in mind is even now, many corporates are lost. When I said 13 or 14 areas, they're still lost. What you just mentioned, the quality of the people coming out, the skills of the people coming out, is a theme which is consistently poor. Now, will infrastructure solve the problem? Maybe to some extent. And in these times, certainly things like technology and tabs and this and that are like the most sought after. Okay. So, but that's just they're only enablers. Let's keep that in mind. Infrastructure, technology, all those things are enablers. Will they alone enhance the quality? They will not. I think investment in the quality of teachers is another very important aspect. Infrastructure and buildings will come when companies have deep pockets. Some companies say we will only do. Some companies say we will not do. With certain companies will do buildings and infrastructure. Certain companies will invest in labs. Adult Tinkering Lab is a good example. Good example. It's not a very high investment. Government is giving, companies can participate, companies can invest. I think Bosch gave you some stuff, right? In your Sargo school, right? Am I right, Dr. Praveen? They support you in this. So there is possible Bosch, right? Am I right? Yeah. So I think to shape this also, it is not just corporate thinking alone. Ramesh, what you brought about a very important point. I think we should sit together and shape this. Like you give some ideas here. Tomorrow, some other subject comes to me. My COVID hospital is getting PP or not. Same Praveen will send me another mail. So the point about my thinking process as a CSR head as to education is one word mine. I'm also into skilling. I'm also into arts and crafts, and right now I'm also into COVID. Okay, so the point here is like my thought process also gets moved. So when we converse in places like this, and when you push in the thinking of this nature, well-meaning corporates will do this. You can be assured on that.
Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. I think it's we have about we're close to the end, so we would like to hear your closing remarks, your final thoughts on this. Mr. Sridhar.
I want to take one more question. That's my final call. I don't want to remit. I want to take one more question. And I want Balu to give you the final thoughts. Okay. Balu, you should give the final thought. I'm pushing you to give this final thought. There's nothing final. We're all in together. We are on the same side, okay? I'm just on this side giving lecture, that's all. But we are on the same side. That's what I believe in. So when we sit in the meeting room, I always keep saying my partners, we're on the same side. We had a meeting with all the partners 2 months back, right? Praveen, you have participated in that. Yeah. What are the first assurance I gave to all the partners? I said, look, nothing will change for you. We'll keep moving you. We'll push you. COVID or no COVID, we have commitment stays. That's the biggest assurance we can ever give to any partner. We said COVID, we'll deal with it separately. This COVID, this is what we do normally. And that's the biggest thing we did. We had a 2-hour session with all my 30 partners. That was the first meeting I did with a single partner. That's what we did. Now we expect vice versa. Okay, Ramesh? Yeah. Partner should not let us down. Okay, so I want Balu to give the final words. Okay, but I want Balu knows all sides of Titan. He knows all sides of me. I want him to talk on the final parting words because we are on the same side. But I want to take one more question from the audience. And Ramesh, I don't know who is coordinating. Whatever it is.
Yeah, there is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Based on NEP from the audience. The NEP calls for greater funding from the government, greater expenditure on education from the government. And it also goes on to say that there is a role for even private players for investing in education. So basically the question here is asking about what do you think? How should it be? Should it be to the government or should it be towards supporting educational institutions?
honestly, if you ask me, supporting the institutions who are involved in the field of education. Let me clarify, okay? Education institutions are an institution. There are many others who are doing education, but not necessarily running institutions. Okay. Therefore, I think when we talk about education, all these are in one space. I will not single out a school or a college, whatever. I think there are institutions who are working in the field of education, and that's what we should focus. And therefore, if you ask me if I put in my money there, just because you all asked this question, 40% of my budget is in the sphere of education. Okay. Between education and skilling, it's almost 70%. And this is a continuum. They cannot be seen independently. Just to give you a degree of comfort or otherwise. 32% of the country's 22,000 crores in the last whatever years was spent on education and skilling. Not sufficient still. The biggest challenge to this space in the next year at least will be healthcare, for obvious reasons because of what we are facing today. Okay. So this year, if you see the analysis of somebody does an analysis of 2021 budgets, they will see healthcare suddenly gone up because everybody has put money into COVID. That will show a big spurt, but believe me, it's just temporary. But also, let's keep in mind in India, healthcare, pushing money into healthcare is as big as education. Okay, so this is the conversation we should have constantly, in our minds, and that's why we took a holistic approach. If health is not good, the child doesn't go to school. We looked into the life cycle of the girl child from the health, from the Anganwadi. That's where we started. Otherwise, we'll simply be doing remedial education. So we said, if the nutrition is not supported well and taken care, that girl probably will not even go to school or probably won't even complete her 10th. So therefore, if we don't see this as a continuum, we will probably be seeing only parts of it. That's my last point. Okay. Balu, out to you.
Okay. Thanks,
Sorry, Balu,
Sridhar.
you didn't expect, but that's what I am. I didn't expect this, but that's what I am. Okay.
I didn't expect, but I'm prepared, Sridhar.
I know you.
Well, thank you, Sridhar. It was such an excellent sharing of thoughts. And I just want to sort of reiterate to all our friends on the Zoom audience that Sridhar is an exception. I don't want us to carry forward the perception that all CSRs, all corporate support will be the spirit of partnership. Now, the reality is there is a power dynamic, there is asymmetry of power, and that's a reality which you have to contend. I only hope people like Sridhar and Titan become benchmarks in this space, and then that becomes a norm. But that being said, education, in my strong view, is a public service. It's a public goods which has to be rendered by the state. And with states shrinking investment in the social sector, it has now become critical for corporates to step in. I think I only wish and hope that corporate CSR doesn't cover up the inefficiencies of
Balu,
public
we are
sector.
losing you.
Can you hear me now? Can the others hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think Sridhar's bandwidth was not good because even his sound was getting cut for me also. I missed out a lot of his comments. But anyway, let me continue. Others can hear me. Essentially, I believe that we cannot cross-subsidize inefficiencies.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Go ahead, but you can maybe.
Sridhar, we missed you out. So can you hear me, Ramesh?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I think there must be net connectivity problem at your end, Sridhar. But I believe that CSR investments into the third sector is possibly the next best that we can do in a country like India when the public sector is not completely delivered. But with NEP, hopefully with the Prime Minister having given his commitment to implementing the NEP, the future years must see a huge surplus investment in budgets. The last point I want to share is with increasing focus on education and human capital, and with the World Bank releasing Human Capital Index reports, which is due next month for this year, India is not really very high in that. And so we need to really look at, despite all these investments, why isn't money being spent? And for me, a question or a thing which troubles me is close to 80,000 crore rupees get spent annually in the public sector between states, central, and other different departments departments related to the government itself, whether it's higher education, whether it's adult education, etc. And where is the accountability framework? Where are the demands being made? So when CSR expenditures come in the sense of demanding accountability framework from public systems. When corporates open up and say that's also part of a responsibility, it's not about funding a school, but also funding somebody to ask questions of the government for efficiency standards. And with quality being such a heavy focus in the NEP, I think the government should also be held accountable for that. And for me, advocacy means not just selling a positive experiment or selling just a good theory of change to government, but also catching the government when things are not working properly, communicating to them that they are accountable and deliverable to a system that we need to be asking for. And when CSR investments come into that space, then I think that will be courageous of corporates. So I stop here and I thank Sridhar. I'm not sure if he's still online, for the wonderful session.
Sridhar is here. I think we lost Dr. Balu. Ramesh.
I'm online.
Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah,
Yeah,
we lost Dr. Balu. He said he lost me, but he lost.
Yeah. So, so as we conclude the seventh session of Guru Manthan, I think it was a pleasure as usual. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure bringing it to you, and I'm sure each one of you enjoyed it as much as we did in bringing it to you. And I would like to thank all the participants. I would also thank Sheni Sridhar for sharing his thoughts and making this such a wonderfully interactive session. Thank you very much, sir, and look forward to having more such interactions with you and working with you on several other programs as well. And
Thank you so much. And the next interaction, we'll do it in Mysore. Don't feel like sitting on technology and doing it. One-to-one interaction in your huge hall, we will do. That will be more exciting.
Sure, sir. I think that would be something that we are also looking forward to. I think, yeah.
Okay.
And just a reminder to all the participants that next week also, same time, that is 19th September, we'll be in conversation with Mr. Anil Swarup, IAS, former secretary, MHRD Government of India. And he'll be speaking about ethical dilemmas, teachers, schools, and the education system. And look forward to your company there as well. And I'm sure as we go forward. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend and have a great year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.